Let's talk about writing. So have you ever heard your child say to you that they don't know what to write? If so, heard your child say to you that they don't know what to write? If so, why do you think that is? The core issue is not really that they don't have anything to write about, it's more that they don't know how to articulate the experiences that they've had in life. So one of the things that Andrew Poudouin says is that we need to get the information into the brain, that information to come out of the brain and onto the page. And the way to do this is by reading, your child reading or you reading to your child. So this is a teaching skill within itself. They have concepts in their minds, they have pictures, they have memories, they have experiences that they've had, but you have to teach them how to get that out of their mind. And one way of doing this is through questioning. He always talks about this in his videos where he says things like, have you seen your mum or like an adult when they've lost their keys? They ask questions like, where did I put it last? Where could my key be? What did I do with it last? Who was I with? And they ask lots of questions to help them to go back and find their keys. So this is one way that he presents the lesson to children, for them to learn how to think and ask themselves questions. And when they're able to ask themselves questions, it helps them to be able to put things on the page. So how do children learn to write? Children learn to write by reading good writing and then practicing the writing for themselves. They will make mistakes with their writing, but once that writing has been corrected, they will find even better ways of writing. Good writing comes through trial and error. So if you have a child who's at the early stage of learning how to write, try not to keep talking to them about the spellings and mistakes that they're making, but appreciate the writing that they've given you. You could use that writing, don't scribble over it, appreciate it. Maybe if you have a photocopier at home, you could photocopy that writing, edit the writing, and then get them to write it again. That's if they're low confident. Or if it's if that's free writing, just appreciate it for what it is. If it's a skill that you're teaching them how to write, look at my video on copywork, narration and dictation, as that will kind of discuss a bit more what you can do to bring out the benefits of their early literacy skills. Another thing that makes good writers is reading, basically. The ability to read well, it means that the child will be able to write well as well. Vocabulary and words also increase the ability to write, the ability to express yourself. Writers love words. Just ask my daughter. She's currently working towards doing her, it's not a spelling bee, but it's like a spelling test that she's doing at ESC, our student convention. So she's learning some really interesting words, and she just loves words. And I think if you can get a child to love words from the very beginning, it would really help with their writing. Now remember that with writing, children need building blocks. They need to build upon foundational blocks to get to the top in order to write. A child is not just going to write really well and become a genius at writing at the very top if they haven't got these skills down below, worked on. You might find that when your child is writing, there's many skills in there that you want to fix straight away, but sometimes it's better just to take out one target at a time and focus on that rather than focus on all the different skills of writing. Now, the way that I view writing is the same way that I view driving a car. When you drive a car, you've got to learn many of the mechanics of, obviously safety first, putting your seatbelt on, making sure your seat's positioned right, make sure that you can reach over to the wheel, make sure that your mirrors are in the right place, that they're adjusted correctly, that your wing mirrors are adjusted correctly, that you can see things better. Once you've done all that, then you'll learn the parts of the gear stick, you'll learn about the acceleration, the brakes, the clutch, things like that you'll learn. But there's many different parts that you're learning about even before you start actually driving. And that's the same with writing. So there's the mechanics of writing, like the spellings, checking whether it makes sense, the punctuation, the grammar, the handwriting, the formation. There's all these different things. So when you're teaching your child one piece of work, you can't expect to have all those things correct at the beginning. But if you focus on one target at a time, that child will develop better with, their writing skills will develop even better. Children have imagination, they love to play, so obviously with that imagination, it's about trying to get that imagination on paper, which can be quite hard for children sometimes. But you have to get your child to learn how to ask questions in order to help them to know what order they're going to place their writing in. Reading is what makes a good writer, even for children that do not know how to read. Children who cannot read for themselves have an adult or a parent that's able to read to that child, and once that information is read to the child is able to pour out the information just through speaking. So you have to make sure that you're reading to your child in large quantities in order to help them to be better with their writing. So here are some tips for teaching writing to the older child. Number 1, plan out the writing. You can do like a story sequence chart or an outline of what it is that you want to write. Take about 5 minutes to do this before starting a writing task. The writing is not a play, so even though the child may have a big imagination and want to write down everything that they want to say, they don't have to put everything down on the page. Keep the writing simple. Using good vocabulary makes the writing even more impressive, so you can kind of show off your writing. If they're writing a story, make sure that the story is structured correctly with a beginning, a middle and an end, with a problem and a solution in the middle or somewhere in the story. And there's something called show not tell. So this is where the child shows us what is happening rather than telling us what is happening. Said is dead. That's something that I use with my students. Don't use the word said, use other words instead, like exclaimed, yelled, reported, anything else except from the word said makes the writing sound even better. Grammar matters in your writings. When you're writing, make sure that the grammar makes sense and that it's correctly written. Although metaphors and similes are required for children for the 11+ exams and just in general for writing, they have to make sense. Sometimes children want to use metaphors and similes to make the writing sound good, but the metaphors must make sense in order for the writing to flow. Thank you for watching to the end. If you like this video, please consider subscribing.